Live from the internet, this is the Crystal Chronicles, your one-stop shop for all things Dissidia, Final Fantasy, Opera Omnia. Today is episode 68, recorded on September 12th, 2019. We welcome all of you joining through podcast land, however you enjoy podcasts. All of you joining on Twitch tonight, thank you. All of you catching us up on YouTube or Twitch later, welcome to the show. We have a lot of exciting things tonight, so let me introduce my co-hosts and our special guest. So I am Mark, your host, and I am joined by my co-host and your good friend, Mino Spellgood. How are you doing, Mino?
Good evening, everybody in U.S. time. Thanks for joining us once again.
And welcome everybody in non-U.S. time. Still in U.S. time is our other co-host, and his name is Crease. Crease, how are you doing tonight?
Good evening, everyone.
And we are joined by a fourth tonight, and his name is Inkwelder, and he is of the Tonberry Troupe fame. And so, Ink, welcome. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me on again. This should
twice.
Be a very fun show.
We got you back, so we enjoy having you, and we do have some fun things. Inkwelder and Boykazith have been doing a lot of work this week, and so we're going to talk about that early chaos. And so if you want to stay and stick around for discussion about how do you get through, what are the units that we have seen used in early chaos, what's some of those fights look like, what's it all going to be about, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of data and a whole bunch of work that we got done this week. So it's going to be really exciting. But before we do, we have news and we have some new events. So let us get to the show. First is news of the day, and mostly our news is about all the free crap we got. So we ended up with our Twitter quizzes with a number of rewards. I don't have all of the rewards in front of me. We did get 100 stamina potions. We did get, I think 1,000 gems. We got 100 of the high crystals. So that's super helpful for us, obviously, in bringing characters up to level 70 because of the Twitter quiz rewards. So thank you all for doing those Twitter quizzes and getting those correctly. We also got 300 gems and 6 Relics of All Knowledge due to a bug regarding the tokens in co-op. So did anybody run into that bug? I'm not sure that I really understood what the bug was.
I ran into it, and I was pretty furious. I mean, I think 300 gems, good compensation, but as someone who is very hyped for Paine, I'm very selective about who I pity, and I was ready to go in vain. And then as soon as she dropped, I got on with friends to run the co-ops with books. And what it was the bonus tokens you got from synergy characters.
Yeah.
It was showing up as tokens for the ice cavern.
Oh, okay.
Where Freya dropped. So you weren't getting bonus synergy tokens. You were just getting tokens for the initial clear. So I got I was running a book and trying to maximize it and refreshing bells, and I got way less tokens than I should. And I know 300 gems probably is more valuable, but because I guess I only farm these I hate farming artifacts. So I guess it just stung extra for me that initial run yielded very little. Oh no, it was just tokens. Right, the artifacts were still.
You got the artifacts.
It was just the tokens that were. So I guess honestly, it was just a minor inconvenience, but
it means you have to do more farming of the co-op to get the tokens
but
later.
You did get
which hurts Mino more than most people.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
You did get 300 gems and 6 Relics of All Knowledge for that inconvenience. So thank you, Square, for apologies. We always love apology stuff. Co-op first-time bonus rewards were reset. So now you get gems every time you co-op with a new friend, up to 4,000 gems. So hooray. That is a nice bonus of almost a pull in the game. So love the free gems, love the co-op rewards. It does encourage us to go back and co-op with some random people. We also get double Cycle Quest rewards, and that's going to be for a couple weeks. So that's going to be a good time to level characters. I leveled Warrior of Light. I had not leveled any other of my 70 level characters. And so how many are there? There are 6 or 7, or there's 7 or 8.
There's 9 level 70 characters now.
So is that including Noctis? No, because
Noctis
Alice for Paine. So I had only leveled Warrior of Light. I leveled the other 8 in half an hour on the Sunday dailies, the guild dailies, with a triple book, because the XP is so ridiculous. I was able to level all of those characters fairly easily, and also get several 100,000 gil, or several million, I guess. Gil.
Another important point with the double cycle quest becoming active again is make sure you go and do all of the crystal quests at level 70, because you do get gems for doing them the first time while double cycle quests are active.
So if you had done them already, they reset, so you get extra, and so if you hadn't done them, once double cycle quest rewards ends, you'll have the chance to do them again, correct? And get the gems.
Thankfully, we have that indicator now for World of Illusions and the events that tell us what's not done. So amazing. Such a good quality of life.
So basically more free gems. If you already did the cycle quests, they basically, reset for you during the double cycle request reward. So, and we expect to see Noctis's King Noctis costume, or royal costume, whatever they're calling it, dropping tonight. So you'll be able to get that costume and 9,000 gems. So
thanks for the reminder, Mark.
Yeah,
gotta remember to buy.
So lots of free stuff, and then some stuff that you have to buy. So it all kind of balances out, doesn't it? Yeah. All right, that takes us through the news. So let's go to our first. I can't even believe this character came out this week already. It seems like so long ago. And that is our special chapter released a new character. We'll talk about the chapter in a little bit. And that character's name is Paine from Final Fantasy X-2. So we want to talk about this character named Paine, what she does, who she is, and we'll go over a little bit of the special event that launched with the chapter as well. So, who's taking Paine? Creaser or Ink?
I think I'm taking Paine, and Ink is taking Noctis. I get the easy job here.
Walk us through Paine.
Okay, so Paine is a mixed offensive damage dealer and debuffer. However, her debuffs are actually kind of unique in that she does not apply generic debuffs. Instead, she has a buff aura that debuffs enemies, as well as a unique debuff called Status Break. Her first ability, Break Attack, applies Status Break to the enemy, and this basically debuffs all stats. So it reduces attack, defense, int brave, max brave, and speed while it is active. The other thing that Break Attack does, other than being a brave plus HP attack, is that it applies stress. Dress Sphere raises Paine stats based on the number of levels she has of it. First level gives her max brave, second level gives her speed, third level defense, fourth level int brave, fifth level attack. In addition, when she gets to 5 levels, her EX ability turns into an empowered version, which we'll get to in a minute. Her second ability is Black Sky, which is an AoE random brave attack. Not random, it's distributed evenly. The 9 attacks are distributed evenly across all targets, and then does a single target HP attack. It has 150% overflow, so it can hit pretty hard. And her EX ability, Dancing Sword Plus, is an AoE Brave plus HP attack. In its empowered form, Dancing Sword Plus, it also can overflow up to 200%, and it gives her a unique buff called Wing Arts, which works as both a buff aura and a debuff aura. The buff aura raises all of the party's stats by 30%, and it reduces the enemy's stats by 10%. All of their stats, attack, defense, int brave, max brave, speed. While Wing Arts is active, Paine also gets access to a Brave Plus and an HP Plus, which are both 3-hit Brave attacks with the HP Plus finishing up with an HP attack. Finally, she has her additional ability, which gives her bonus overflow and bonus damage to enemies afflicted with status break, which can be improved with her extension passive and Bloomstone.
Hey, I want to stop for a second and shout out to Lute on Twitch for the sub and the gift of 5 subs to other listeners right now, other Twitch members. So thank you for your support. We did mention it is September, so there is a discount on subs. If anybody is interested in subbing to our Twitch, potentially that would help us out. And if you are a Twitch Prime member, or a Twitch Prime member by being an Amazon Prime member, you can give us a free sub. You get 1 free sub. So thank you to Lute for your support. And if I am mispronouncing your name, that's how I've always envisioned it to be. Please let me know so I can say it correctly. So thank you much. So yes, back to you.
Sorry, one thing I missed with Paine, that mostly covers her kit except for one thing. All of her abilities do extra damage when she hits enemies afflicted with status break. She actually does weakness damage. So you want to get status break on as many enemies as you can. Keep that in mind when you're using her. Other than that, she's relatively straightforward. You apply status break, you build up Dress Sphere stacks, and then you use her EX ability when it's ready so that you can get her unique buff Wing Arts for the buff aura and debuff aura.
I guess I'll come in with some practical experience. I think I was the most excited for Paine out of all us co-hosts because, as Kree said, he didn't really care, but he pulled and got it. And I don't know if Mark was really aiming at. I think I was the only one planning to pity it, no matter what. It was on my.
I was not
must-have.
aiming for it.
Yeah, it was. I was the only co-host on the must-have list, and so as a person, I ran her through all the hard modes on all the Cosmos fights, and I guess to appreciate it is she's a very good jack of all trades because, like, she has the debuffs. If the enemy is immune to debuffs, she still has the auras and the buffs. And barring that, she has above average damage. Above average Brave. Not as good as a full DPS. Honestly, the fact that she can do everything on top of her damage is really good plus. The downsides is, what I didn't realize is she takes a while to build up, to be honest. Like, you need to do 3 skills to get the full stacks of help me out here. Is it Dress Sphere? Yeah, it is Dress Sphere, right? Yeah. You need 3 skills to do Dress Sphere. Yeah. Usually that means she's fighting it like under full strength throughout the trash waves. And then if you're doing a 1-wave battle with the boss, that's still 3 or so turns before she hits that. And then her biggest asset, which is the group aura buff, comes with her EX, which is at the earliest turn 4, and sometimes even turn 5, and how fast your team is. So it does take her a while to get set up. She isn't a pure damage, but I love how she's just useful in every situation, and I think that's what got her a place on the Cosmos meta team, is that no fight completely shuts her out. She can always either debuff, buff, or DPS at an above average rate. And if she's allowed to do all of those things, then she's definitely carrying more than her weight to any fight you bring.
Well, she's doing max damage quite often, so I'm not sure. She seems to cut above the rest of the debuffers, that's for sure.
I do believe as defense scales higher, you won't see that, because definitely already on the Emperor fight, if anyone's tried the Emperor fight on hard mode, he has a lot of defense.
Yeah.
Which is really apparent to non-DPS characters like Paine. Like, unless you're full DPS, you're not even capping. Like, I had Zach with a lot of buffs and the target bonus going, and he couldn't cap either. So I'm saying, like, the defense is going to scale higher as we go, so I wouldn't take it face value like the damage he's doing now. The potential damage is lower than, say, Lightning and Noctis right now.
Well, I think that's why.
I have it on a chance.
Go ahead, Ink. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I would just say like I've been using Paine and Zach with Sarah.
Yeah.
And Sarah, and I assume Ash, I don't have Ash, but I think Strafe did a video of Ash and Paine sort of shutting things down. And yeah, they make sure, like, if you've got Ash or Sarah, and I assume Ramza when he comes, they're going to help her cap nonstop throughout Cosmos. I think you just need that offensive support with them.
Right. Like buffers, she's very she plays nice with buffers because she hits, which is one of Zach's defenses, is that because he has so many hits, once like the bigger ores and buffs comes, he keeps staying relevant. So you're right, Paine does have a lot of multi-hits to keep her relevant. Kreese, what were you gonna say?
I have not had a chance to use Paine outside of boosted status, so for farming summon boards or for just doing the co-op and Cosmos that came with the story chapter. But she hits relatively hard. I don't see her always doing max damage because I'm pairing her with weird characters sometimes, but she does a decent amount of damage once she's all set up.
Well, without much strategy, doing some of the harder fights in the story, so out of synergy, I was certainly able to do over 50,000 damage each enemy with her AoE attack, or max damage on a single enemy. So, I mean, again, I get what you're saying with I get what you're saying with the scaling to debuff, and we'll see that going into chaos for sure. But compared to her other people, compared to people around her, there's not a ton of people doing, 99,999 damage right now.
I mean, fair, but also, like you said, we only have 9 level 70 characters right now.
True.
As the Awakening
True.
Yeah. Yeah. As the Awakening waves come up, you'll see the characters starting to do more damage. Like Paine is she does a little bit of everything. That's what saves her damage, and her damage is still above average. But as Strafe is saying in chat right now, Paine's value comes more from the debuff plus her buffing auras more than her damage. Her damage is very serviceable, considered slightly above average. But like right now, we should not be what is it called? Synergy biased against her damage event. Oh man, in the event, I'm capping every for sure.
Yeah, I used her throughout the story chapter out of synergy, and she was just overperforming nonstop. Had tons of abilities left. Her HP plus is awesome. Her C68 is awesome, giving a 10% aura to attack and max brave.
Yeah, I guess the only... Oh, sorry, go finish that thought.
No, I'm done.
Oh, I was going to say, I guess the only problems I found using her throughout the chapter is she is single target only, which sometimes affects score because you really need trash clear sometimes. And it's just the older characters, older level 60 characters like Vayne and Zach can still do more damage per turn than she can. Sad. But again, I'm not saying she's not. I still love her as a character, and I'm going to be running her. Can on it.
Do we all have Paine? Did every person get her EX on stream tonight?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That looks like it.
That's funny. Clean sweep.
Yeah. So hey,
I know, right? Like I know all of us co-hosts got extremely lucky. Priest said he hit it without trying. You got it on your 13th challenge. I got it on a single multi-pull. And Ink, how did you do?
180 tickets, which
not bad.
Problem.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't sink into gems, I don't consider it a huge hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think she is an interesting character, and it wasn't somebody who I was planning on pulling for besides my 13 tickets. So I don't know that I would necessarily chase her depending on what else you have, but I've enjoyed using her, and I think she's fairly versatile with her framed buffs, framed debuffs, and auras, and crazy damage. The only thing I see as an issue is potentially running out of abilities, but she does have a fairly powerful HP plus and Brave plus attack, so I think it's manageable.
Yeah, and I think she's the only character for a long, long time, at least until Chaos, that both gives a unique buff with auras, a unique debuff, and, all at the same time. So it's a pretty good niche for now. Honestly, probably one of the reasons they're putting off her EX Plus for so long.
I will say the way that I have maxed out of Synergy, maxed her damage, is using her additional ability, triggering that before before the plus version of her EX. Yeah,
her AA is definitely it's like less use is shorter duration than some of the others I've.
It's only 2 turns.
Yeah.
So you really want to pop it before you use her EX Plus. Or not her EX Plus, her plus version of her EX ability, and then probably, one other ability.
Yeah.
Black Sky.
All right. I think we've talked a lot about Paine.
Paine's very good is the general consensus.
Yeah, she's
let's
very
move
good.
on. Yeah. I like, as I was talking to some other friends about just games in general, but it applies here too, but I like characters that are very versatile, because you'll see them more than people with specialties, because you can always slot in Paine as a safe slot. It's like time traveling Barts back in the day.
Yeah,
it's like just throw him in. You can throw him into any fight, and he'll be like even magic physical resist fights, range resist fights, whatever. He'll still bypass and battery and gravity. Like he can't be shut down, and that's what makes a character valuable. Paine is one of the most versatile characters I have in a long time.
Jake, I did play Final Fantasy X-2, and playing Paine on this does not make me want to go back and play that game again. But
neither, same. Same.
I did play it. I suffered through it. I only had several seizures through all of the
before we get into this
stuff.
Before we get into the story of new chapter, I wanted to say, like, in the beginning, I was like, making me appreciate 10-2 more with all the little like interactions they're having.
Yeah.
And then halfway into the chapter, Paine became the one-dimensional character that I remember of just saying I want to hurt things over and over and being like female squall. And I was like, yeah, okay, I remember it correct. She was almost a non-factor.
Before we get to the actual chapter, we need to talk about the event that hit with the chapter, which is, what was the event called? A Feast for Darkened Wings, which included some single-player and co-op events. So there's a new co-op event with the Astaroth, which are kind of like these angelic-looking things, which are a pain in the butt, which can do crazy... Their big mechanic is if they break you, they get an immediate drain attack, which is a big HP attack, which can potentially kill one of your party members and heal them. So it's a pain in the butt. So be careful when you're playing co-op. And, if you're bringing a warrior light into a boosted room, which is, of course, wrong. But if you do, use your shield so that your other teammates don't all die, because they're going to be expecting you to use your shield if you went out of your way to go into a boosted room with a non-boosted character. Other than that, that's good. But there was a Cosmos with that, and that's the Cosmos that was Paine boosted for that. I forget.
What was that, Mark?
The Cosmos event, the Feast for Darkened Wings Cosmos. Yeah, Paine, and who else was Synergy? It would be the banner characters, Waka and Furion. Yeah, so those are the 3 characters from the banner were Synergy on that event. Anybody want to throw some insight about how to take on that event? Personally,
don't bring magic users.
Oh yes, they are magic resistant. And
it's not magic resistance.
Oh no,
they counterattack and curse your targets if they use magic.
Yeah, if you use a magic attack, they do have a counterattack and a curse mechanic. So you do
outside
not
of
want
summon.
to. Yeah.
So you can summon and avoid that, which is a great opportunity for you to refresh Vane's skills if you're not running him with the cheesy Lena Warrior of Light combination that basically just neuters the boss and makes it trivial.
That's what I was going to say. Lena and Warrior of Light plus a DPS pretty much neuter the fight, because Lena makes it so they can't debuff you, and Warrior of Light makes it so they can't hurt you. So
These bosses also have the same mechanic as the ice gigases from the last story chapter Cosmos had, which is that after a certain health threshold, they will follow any breaks they perform with an extra attack, so you got to be careful of that. So Warrior Light shuts that down too.
once again, Lena paying for herself so many times. But there are plenty of other options. Of course, Macnol has a call to arms on Reddit. That is MACNOL, Macnol. So if you're struggling with that, you can go check out the runs that have been done. If you have some interesting ways to beat it, go submit a video because that helps the community and it's a lot of fun. So also feel free to join our Discord and we can help you out as well if you're struggling with that event. But yes, if you pulled Porum's probably going to help that as well. But yeah, be careful if you don't have Warrior of Light and Lena. Just make sure that you're not allowing them to break you and kill you.
I think for this, I actually used Fury and Paine and Lena, so I did not bring Warrior of Light, and I got the complete. I had to be safer. I used a Quistis friend to push back one of them very far, so I only had to deal with one at a time, which helped a lot.
I just want to add in the last unnecessary tidbit because I'm sure everyone's done with the co-op already. But again, this is one of those few co-ops people underestimate that you can lose somebody. I've seen 1 to 2 deaths in many of these where I didn't have Waka as a friend, and I always say I always run these co-ops with a friend, so it's at least 2 out of 3 pre-made. He always ran Waka, and I underestimated how much the Dark Attack helps. Holy crap, does that neuter the fight. But once Waka was gone, people were dying for sure, because people aren't paying attention to break and stuff.
Yeah, be careful of breaks in the co-op if you do not have a Warrior of Light with you.
And if you're Furion, please start with Blood Weapon.
Oh,
Stop
man!
using Seize Attack first. You're supposed to use Seize Attack second to battery your party and avoid them from being broken. Stop starting with Seize Attack.
Honestly, Ink, I was thinking about that, but I was like, oh man, that is an elitist thing to, because I'm like, it's like the new Squall. Remember how Squalls always used to like do the wrong skill, or who is a spiritual successor to Squall? I don't remember. But yeah, I saw Furions do nothing but Furions do nothing but spam either Blood Weapon or, like you said, just they don't even use. It's a lot of terrible Furion. But I mean, again, this is just old rehashes, new rehashes of old problems. Like, I'm not going to be the guy who says this is how you should play. I'm just saying, be careful, guys, because I think this is a new era where non-boosted characters keep showing up in these things. I keep seeing too many Warrior of Lights in these things, and too many Furions that are not playing right.
Ice Pick 823 says, if you're double targeted, use a Brave Attack or you will die. Unless you have a Warrior of Light helping you out, you're pretty much dead. So yeah, be careful, kids. Don't go fighting those things.
The reason you want to use Seize Attack second Pearson Spectre, especially for this co-op, is because Furion's fast enough, he almost always goes first, and he can always get a second attack in before the enemies go. By Seize Attacking second, you battery the party to protect them from break.
It also enables your Brave Plus. So even if like Furion and a party member is being targeted, he can use his Brave Plus, battery the party, and both people avoid break, which is really handy.
Interesting enough, just before we move on, No Heart 36 in chat is saying people shouldn't be able to ready up with a non-boosted character in a boosted lobby. I know that back a few months ago, this was a big topic on. Actually, this has been a big topic on the subreddit since the game started doing these boosted, right? And I think Square Enix Joshua has always said they're taking in feedback and will consider the direction they're going. And we still haven't heard anything, so I don't know if they've made their decision or not. But I do agree, and I do think if you guys feel strongly about it, you should keep putting your feedback on the subreddit and in the official Discord channel.
I have been a guest in more than one boosted only room with the host being a warrior of light and then another warrior of light showing on.
Oh my god, I've seen that. You know, I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, I don't know if we're just the vocal minority.
Whatever.
But I do think it is worth unless Square Enix officially releases a statement saying they've decided one way or another. I think they're still listening to feedback, so I do encourage you guys to keep putting your feedback in the official channels.
I'm not going to lie. For events like this where I know I'm not going to get boosted characters only in the boosted characters only room, I just go to free-for-all.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I rarely get it. I'm very opposite to you all. I go into the boosted room with Paine, and it's usually triple Paine or 2 Paines and a Ferion or a Waka. Like, I think I've only had non-boosted maybe twice out of like nonstop bell usage. But yeah, it's definitely an outlier for me.
It depends. Some events are better than others. For example, the Sync event, I get the feeling there will be a lot of Noctises in that boosted only room. But for this, I haven't had as much luck. And Warrior of Light's still the new shiny, especially the Warrior of Lights that only have their EX weapon and their abilities all out of order going in the co-ops. That's always fun.
Yeah, CSDX is saying in chat, I only ever really cared about boosted in the raid. It was such a big deal.
Yeah.
My perspective is, as someone who hates co-ops, famously hates co-op, I want to do as little as possible. And the problem is I'm running books all the time. And it really is, people always say, is it really worth your time to dodge the non-boosted characters? If you're running books, it really is. Because a synergy character gives you double, sometimes even more tokens. And if you're doing a synergy with books, that's up to 4 times more tokens. It's really worth it for me to just wait for another boosted character. And I've just seen too many disbands on it that it's just like, come on, just use the just for fun room. Like, if you really feel like you want to try a character. That's what I do when I want to play around with characters. But
Ragnamune saying, and here I am seeing Laguna and Veins in the boosted room. Yep, I feel you. All
right. But that's again plenty on this event. Should we talk about the chapter itself?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Is it my turn now? I was gonna throw this on Ink. That's why we have guests. That's why we have guest hosts, right? Okay, thank you, Ink. Do you want to give us a summary of how this chapter is, mechanically and story-wise?
Sure. I mean, mechanically, there were some interesting new enemies, those mind flayers that resist magic, and the horses counter with confusion for 3 turns, which is awful. So you have to be really careful when you bring units like Sarah, because she literally has to brave attack to open a battle. She can't even get her buff because then she'll get confused. But I really liked the chapter. The whole first half of it is all X2 related. Which is just nice if you enjoyed Final Fantasy X and know about Final Fantasy X too. I think just seeing the interactions between like Paine and Waka, her calling him Tubby is hilarious. And also I have a huge appreciation. I wish they did this more. Once you meet the Dark Mannequins halfway through, and they get rid of the celebration music, and you just have this like very somber music during the victory cutscenes, and then the whole last part of it is all the FF2 music nonstop. So no victory music, no world map music. It's all going through, and I think it creates a really nice example, or like a good intensity for what's going on. They did that in Kuja's Lost Chapter.
Yeah.
They've
done that in other story chapters as well.
Ink, sorry to before you come back to this and explaining like the little things in the story, how about a quick summary of the actual story in the chapter?
So it's all about Yuna and Tidus trying to regain their memories of what happened at the end after Final Fantasy X concluded. So spoiler warning, I guess. Not really spoiler warning, but they're really looking for memories of what happened in Yuna's second mission in 10-2 when she joined up with Paine. So it's sort of interesting to see that Paine joined the party and no one knew who she was. Yuna just felt bad for not knowing Paine. So it's all about them trying to remember and sort of justifying or figuring out the actions that Yuna took in 10-2, which I know Soul DFFO has talked about this a lot. A lot of people really hate the transition of Yuna in 10-2. She's like a completely different person. But I think that they did a decent job of weaving in 10-2, even though it was a huge departure from her character.
I agree. I could not agree more, Ink. Actually, like I was like, did I miss this message when I was playing 10-2 about how Yuna did the first journey in FF10 for everyone's sake, and then 10-2 was all about focusing on herself? I was like, was that stated in 10-2 that I missed?
No,
I don't know.
There's actually bonus scenes they added to the international edition of Final Fantasy X, which we never got in the US, of course, until they did the remaster, that bridged that gap by having Yuna doing the reflection after the events of Final Fantasy X and leading up to the events of 10-2.
Okay, you're right. So when the
That's
initially released, it was they didn't have that context, right? Either way, I don't care because I don't like 10-2 anyway. Mark and I were saying before the show, we were saying like, oh yeah, this made us appreciate 10-2 a little more, but not enough to play it again. But it was a very good link. It did make me appreciate 10-2 a little, and I like how they worked in. Again, I don't know. I think the head developer has a love affair with Jack because he's in every single chapter and LC since he released, and like they somehow brought it all back to Jack. He had that little talk with Orin about like, oh, this is future generations, and they have it a lot. They have the bright future that we always hoped they would. Which is a big theme that I always like. And for all my favorite characters, Kane and Sabin got a lot of scenes for some reason. They have no relation to plot, but they had a lot of talking parts in here. I love it. But I mean, my only takeaway, honestly, that people working on DFO, at least the writing side, really love the games and the characters. And there's so many fan service moments for like just, I guess, diehard fans. And then jumping to the second part of the story, Erole says, FF2 was the second half focus. Do you want to comment on that, Ink?
I agree with most of the community that said it sort of felt shoehorned in. Like Seymour, who had a really interesting part, I think, and played a nice villain in the first half, sort of ducked out and he was like, cool, I'm good. Like, Emperor, you take it. And there wasn't really a good connection between Emperor. Like, they had one scene between Emperor and Seymour, but they didn't really see eye to eye. And
from what I gathered, correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like, so what Seymour was saying, like he was saying like, oh, I don't really agree with the Emperor, but I'm using him because the end goal will be the same, and the end goal was to have the whole castle come down on the cast. He just wanted revenge on the cast, it looked like he's just like, oh, whatever, lure them in, have the whole fucking castle blow and take them out with that seemed like Seymour's goal to me. But sorry, Jake is saying this is the first time I can remember a non-permanent character made an appearance in the story, and I think he's referring to Leon. And I want to say that Leon's LC has not come out yet, but his role in the story seemed to be like it was pretty clear he hasn't joined the cast yet. Kind of. They're kind of ignoring his character event.
Definitely set up Leon in the story to be like, oh, who's this guy? Oh, it's
like a cameo.
Leon. He isn't actually an ally yet, but he's here to help.
He wasn't like officially part of the party, so I think they're still keeping to the tradition that before the LC comes, these characters aren't officially in the party.
So what would have been really cool, and I was hoping for it, but I know it doesn't happen, is when they make a cameo like that, how awesome would it be if for that battle you got to use Leon, even if you didn't recruit him, he was awakened at full capacity, sort of like when you get to use Leo in FF6. Whenever you get like a guest guest person, guest playable character all of a sudden for a really short period of time.
Mhm.
That would have been so cool to get Leon with his EX, like such a good preview for what's coming, like in the next month and a half, is like, hey, here's a fully powered Leon that you can use in the battle, but literally just this battle. That would have been really cool.
That would be insanely cool, and I agree with you. I'd be okay one way or the other, but to play devil's advocate, DFFO being a crossover game that you can use any, you want to mix up your teams. If you have a locked slot, if 1/3 of your team is set, it kind of limits your approach to the fight. So I can take it one way or the other. I think your way is really good for advertising characters, though, for sure.
How many people would be so hyped?
It would
But I also think it might be more work for the developers.
It would be interesting instead of even having one locked character, just have a locked team every once in a while. So you have to play as Furion, Maria, Leon, but it's not your versions of them. They're all fully unlocked, fully kitted, and teams that would work, and obviously a fight that's tuned to that team.
I actually really like that idea. Yeah, I really like it.
Gives you a chance to see some different characters, use some different characters, and makes the story a little bit more impactful.
Hell, they could do that for like the 50 fight for events. Honestly, give you like a fully kitted version of that character to tempt people.
Yeah, there is. Now that you mention it, in a lot of games that I have played over the past, there's just like a way. There's sometimes ways to preview the character before you like try to get the character on gacha. I mean, obviously we talk about it, and there's 100 content creators doing different things for it. So we do have that, thankfully, in a great community. But yeah, you'd think maybe in game that would help the hype. They do the little videos, but that doesn't really give you.
There's also the friend units. There's also seeing other people using that character in co-ops. There's ways to see a character in action in game, even if you do not own them.
Yeah, the friend unit.
Yeah, Kreese is right. Like that's what the co-ops do. Like it encourages you to pimp out the character so you can show it off. And then when you show it off to other people, they want the character. So that does serve the purpose. But I agree. Like, Mark is right. A lot of gacha games do show off the fully pimped out character in a Fighters 2. And that would be a great idea. But we're just talking theories now. Let's get back to the practice. Let's any specific parts of the chapter you guys want to cover fight-wise?
Well, the last fight was probably the most difficult. Well, maybe it wasn't. The Emperor and Cerberus. They just have tons of health. I don't even know if its defense is that high. They just have a lot of health. So it took a lot of turns to beat those two monsters down. But again, it wasn't a struggle. I think I've been running Lena, Warrior of Light, and Paine, like my super defensive team, as opposed to Inkwelder's super offensive team. And
I never run Lena.
It wasn't a problem.
I rarely run her. Just because she doesn't synergize with Sarah, Lena neuters Sarah's poison effect by lowering poison by 90%. And I will force Sarah in just about every level, even if they resist magic. Just not if they counter magic. I can't stand that counter stuff, but yeah.
Very similar to Ink. We were talking about this before the show as well, is that I used a completely different team to Ink. Ink, did you state your go-to team? It was
Paine, Sarah, and Vayne. They are just a behemoth of a team.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was running through it with Lena, Zach, and Lightning. And we were just talking about how great it was to have so many options for strong characters to get through content. And how, like, for example, Warrior of Light and Zach still have different specialties. So they're still, like, Warrior of Light doesn't completely dwarf Zach. There's still many situations Zach is better. When you want a better score, when you want damage, when you a lot of the meta characters right now have a lot of free turns, and they have a lot of consecutive turns. So Warrior of Light shield will wear off on them, whereas Zach is just focused on himself. so he can tank much longer if you're running a speed. And then we were talking about the differences between, say, like Paine and Vayne and Lightning. It's just, thanks to some of the time traveling, we have a lot more viable characters and a lot more options for fun. So I really don't think you should just be pulling on, oh, this character will carry me through the next month or so. Because honestly, a lot of characters seem to be filling a lot of options now. And we're going to be getting more Floors of Abyss. So just round out your roster. Oh, and as a personal note, I just think Zack's more fun than Warrior of Light, and Lightning's more fun. There, I said it. And downvote me right now. But God, are those some characters brain dead for sure.
I was thinking, I was looking back at our notes. So thank you, Ink or Crease, for writing in the outline. The double dragon fight, I think, is harder than the Emperor Cerberus fight, just because those things had a lot of health. And I may have done it. I started with the green dragon from the Lena event, and I think maybe the white dragon had less health, and I should have started with him. But I knew how annoying those green dragons were, so I tried to focus on him, and it was fine. But still, it took a lot of turns to beat that.
The levels were really nice that they put in there. They're level 120, but they really do act like Cosmos stages. The double dragon, the Cerberus fight, and the Spark Eyes fight. And they all have different mechanics that let you use different teams for different reasons, which I think was just really well done. They really test your roster as to how deep it is and whether you can counter. You can't really go in with the same team for all three.
Yeah. Except Lena.
Yeah.
Lena's clutch. No.
She is.
But yeah, there's
Lena
a lot
is very good.
lot of resistances in this chapter and everything else. So.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Mark. To finish that thought, we were just talking in chat that Lena completely neuters the Emperor Cerberus fight. Emperor literally does nothing the entire time if you're immune to his traps, and Cerberus relies on debuffs heavily as well. And as we said, coming up, I can't wait to see the call to arms for a Syncs event on Sunday, because they were saying the maximum value of Lena was Syncs event, because apparently that is very, very debuff heavy. Some cheesy ass debuffs that people with Lena were able to freeze right.
I can't.
Does this mean you're preemptively banning Lena from the event for the TCC challenge?
Maybe. Well, and you know, Warrior of Light's always off the table because, but he has some debuff evasion as well, and so does Selfie. But we'll see, because you know nowadays, because so many of you other content creators have risen up and done all the work for me, I don't do any research. I'm going into a lot of these blind, so we'll see.
There was a JP run of Sync Cosmos using reworked Lightning, Warrior of Light, and Vincent. For Vincent to imperil Lightning, imperil Thunder. And it was just it's around when they got Lightning's rework. So they were hyped to test it out. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was really cool to watch a video of Vincent doing a Cosmos level. Totally random. But
he's coming back. With vengeance, pulling on Vincent all in.
Ragnamune is apparently in disbelief about Vincent being used in Cosmos.
He's the best.
And it's just like, I really think Cosmos era is a very good balance. I know a lot of JP players, in hindsight, looking back, said that Cosmos era was the best era because there were just so many viable characters and teams. Because they said, every character that comes out from launch of Cosmos to end of Cosmos were all viable for Cosmos. And there's just so many possibilities of what you can run. They said this is probably the era that has the most viable diversity for all the events. So that's why I'm like, all these people saying that, Warrior of Light is a must pull, Noctis is a must pull, etc. Like, I think just pull for fun now, because honestly, a lot of, I'm sure if you ask any JP player, they're saying Warrior of Light wasn't seen as necessarily better than Zack until Chaos came along. And of course, Zack's damage couldn't keep up, and Warrior of Light's batteries and buffs can override the insane stat that came with it. But, I don't think that any one character just comes completely dominates.
Well, moving
For
on
sure
from the
not.
chapter, as we have a lot of other things to talk about tonight, including our early chaos discussion, we just a minute ago got a new Lost chapter. We've already had the rework for about an hour, but we now have Noctis Lost chapter. Royal Hope is the name. And so you can pull for Noctis. You can get Noctis's costume. And we have a rework. So, Ink, if you would be so kind... Can you just briefly
Briefly, Ink. I'm talking under 10 minutes because you kept talking about how long this freaking kit is.
Can you explain Noctis's kit in just a couple sentences?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So hold on to your seat, and I'm going to try and go through it fast because his rework is extensive. He's a damage king now for a reason. So, yeah, let me jump right into it. So first off, his C54 got reworked so that there's 20% more max brave to the party that's granted as an aura, along with the speed up. That goes up to 40%. You've got his C58 passive, which now gives him an extra 30% attack aura for himself, up to 50% with more speed. Now for his abilities. Okay. So Shooting Star is going to, that's his Brave plus AoE Brave attack. It now inflicts point blank warp. That's his unique debuff. It stacks, it grants, it lowers defense by 20%. It's 3 turns long, and it is vital to Noctis's kit. We'll get more to that later. If you break, Shooting Star gets a potency increase up to 240%, 120% max brave overflow. It finally dumps the brave and has a single target HP attack. It gives him 60% max brave up as a buff. And then if you've broken a target, then it's going to shift to the plus variant. So the plus variant for Noctis of Shooting Star, if the enemy is debuffed with point blank warp, that's his unique debuff. Noctis, after using Shooting Star, will then follow up with a 2-hit Brave plus HP attack, which looks like his second skill, which is why it deals a ton of damage. Also, Shooting Star Plus will deal 50 chase units to all enemies because it's AoE, which means it's going to initiate a chain attack on your target. And if you're doing Shooting Star into a Warp Strike, into a launch, that's a lot of damage. The other thing that it does is because it's the plus variant, it will shift Noctis's next turn to right before the boss. So on the good side, it lets Noctis potentially take multiple turns in a row if you know how to use his plus abilities. On the downside, if you use it, you may skip turns because he will lose all of his consecutive turns and it will shift right before the boss. Now, his Warp Strike, Shooting Star Plus and all of his plus abilities do not apply the debuff. So really important for using him is that if that debuff runs out, you're losing a lot of damage using a plus variant on a non-debuffed target with his point blank warp debuff.
Oh wait, Square Enix Joshua is coming in with official data. I believe. Oh, sorry, I have no context for this because I'm just drunk and zoning. I'm gonna ask Link a bunch of follow-up questions later. But Square Enix Joshua says, I believe that 2 Brave plus HP also does another Brave if Armiger is active. Might not be on the same turn if Armiger was granted on the same.
So I leave it for last because it's so complicated that if you start assuming that the, like if I say that it's a 3-hit Brave plus HP, which it usually is, it's gonna, then people will think that it becomes a 4-hit Brave with Armiger. So I'd rather give things the base because, oh my God, his kit is so confusing. So thank you, Square Enix Joshua, for one of the most, I think only Realm is more complicated than Noctis. It's fun.
So,
Um,
in short, which buttons do I press?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I was gonna say. Explain like I'm 5 and extremely drunk.
Okay.
If
Wait,
I
well-
were using Noctis's assist for 5 turns, what would the ideal rotation be on a single boss?
Single boss. So I would probably use Shooting Star first to give him his Max Brave, to get
Alright.
his plus ability.
There you go.
I'm covering this at the end, but then I would use his AA. The AA that he has, which is C65, it's his additional ability, is hyper powerful. I'm jumping around now, which makes Noctis even more confusing. So his C65 gives him 5% for 2 turns of overflow on all of his abilities. And it turns all of his abilities into their plus variant, which means
very
that you can jump straight to Warp Strike plus. So let me cover Warp Strike because you need that.
Oh my
So
god. Then put me out of my
So-
misery now. Go ahead.
He has more
Go ahead.
abilities?
Warp Strike is 2-hit Brave plus HP. It is going to apply that debuff for him. Again, the non-plus versions apply the debuff. It gets so the new thing is that it now has 2 hits. The potency is really high at 360. Huge damage increase. 120% overflow, 50% buff to Noctis's attack. If you break the target, it's going to become Warp Strike Plus, which is one of the most important abilities in his kit. And the reason why you want to jump to it early if you're only using Noctis for 5 turns is because it grants him 1 stack of his unique buff called Armiger. So Armiger gives him 5% Max Brave and another 5% Max Brave for each stack. 5 stacks max is 30% all-in Max Brave for Noctis. It also, as Square Enix Joshua pointed out, every single ability that Noctis has will get an additional Brave hit if you have Armiger active. So that means Shooting Star is dealing 3 hits instead of 2. Warp Strike is dealing 3 hits instead of 2. Your Brave attack, your HP attacks, extra Brave for everything, which is why you never want to let it drop off, ever. With that, Armiger is going to turn his Brave attack into Brave Plus, which is just a stronger Brave, his HP plus to a Brave plus HP. That's all generic stuff. But when Noctis really gets turned on is when he gets to 5 stacks of Armiger. That means that not only does he have all his Max Brave up, but he gets access to his Brave Plus Plus, which is a 2-hit Brave. He also gets his hyper powerful, busted, broken HP Plus Plus, which is a 2-hit Brave with Armiger. It's a 3-hit Brave plus HP. If the enemy has point blank warp, just like all of the plus versions of his skills, HP Plus Plus, after the 3-hit Brave, he will do Warp Strike again for free, another 3-hit Brave plus HP attack. And that's just off his HP plus plus. So 6 Brave, 2 HP attacks on an HP plus plus is busted. Okay. So
Yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I'm still going.
Go ahead.
His EX doesn't change. It's 12 Brave hits plus HP. There's no overflow, but it grants him 3 stacks of Armiger, which is extremely nice because it turns him on right away. The reason that I like, at least me, I'm not pulling Noctis, but the reason I like using Shooting Star first, unless you're going to buff his M-Brave with somebody else in the party, you want that Max Brave up just to deal more damage. So opening with his EX will give him access to Armiger right away, but you're going to be missing out potentially on all of the benefits of his debuff being on and his Max Brave being up. So I covered his AA, which is that 5% overflow. This is one of the best 70s that is in this month, if not the best. The Bloomstone gives him 2 uses total and gets him four turns of this 5% overflow. His C70 is amazing. It gives him 15% more overflow. So all of his kit is now at either 140% overflow on his skills or 120% overflow on his EX, which is incredible. And then lastly, Max Brave is good for Cosmos because he's going to be capping. However, 108 330 is good for Cosmos. When you get to Chaos, we'll talk about it soon. If you want to use Noctis in early Chaos, you probably need 108 C50 because Noctis is not capping anything in Chaos whatsoever. So if you want to use him, you'll want his C50, which gives him plus 5% attack and Max Brave on the last wave if he's at full health. And so, yeah, I think I covered everything because I sort of talked about rotation. If you're using Noctis yourself, open up with Shooting Star to AoE, apply the debuff, then go to Warp Strike. You want to get to Warp Strike Plus as fast as possible with the debuff on and get him fully powered so that he gets Armiger. Never let Armiger fall off. If Armiger is at 2, that is your danger zone. So if Armiger is at 2, you're either going to be forced to use Warp Strike in order to get the plus variant for when there's 1 turn left. You're going to have to use the AA to get immediate, the plus version. Remember that his buff will go down after using AA, so you can't use his additional ability to get Warp Strike Plus if you're at 1 turn left on Armiger. You'll lose it completely, and then you have to rebuild his stacks from scratch, which is painful. Or you can use his EX. And the last note I had, you can totally use a Keistis friend with Noctis. Just make sure that his EX is up and you use his HP++ or his non-plus abilities. You can totally do it. I watched Charlotta Cosmos with a Keistis friend with Noctis. Totally worked fine. They destroyed the level because of how much damage he deals. And he worked just fine. You can't use Warp Strike Plus or Shooting Star Plus. All right, I'm done.
Okay, let me try this one more time. So, if I call him as an assist, what is his 5-turn rotation?
I would use, personally, just from watching all the videos of him, Shooting Star Plus to get his Max Brave. You can use Warp Strike Plus if you're going to max it, if you're going to give him a Max Brave buff from somebody else in the party. That totally works. You're then going to use his AA to get his plus skill right away and give him that overflow on all his abilities into Warp Strike Plus to get Armiger. And you're then, if you want, depending on if you're running him with a battery, you can use your Shooting Star Plus because you opened with that and launch to deal a ton of damage. Because remember, Shooting Star Plus is going to do Shooting Star followed by Warp Strike, followed by a launch with a battery. That's a ton of damage. Or you can just go vanilla Warp Strike, which is going to be a double Warp Strike. It's going to be a lot of damage. Just try and buff, give him auras because he already gives nice buffs on his Max Brave and his attack. So he loves auras. Just be ready for that. And he is strafe. Actually, JP mentioned that he's actually a really good friend unit for Rama. Which is going to be coming up just because he rushes him and deals a ton of damage. So if you're not cheesing him with Keistis to delay Rama, Noctis is a reasonable friend unit, just saying, for that battle.
All right. So it sounds like this is pretty ideal if I try this later. Again, I'm pretty drunk and not fully grasping this, but my takeaway is he's a very complicated character, but it's actually worth the effort you put in because he is known as arguably the best DPS for the next 3 months if you master his kit. So the complexity does reward you if you invest into it. Sounds like. Handing it off back to Mark. What's next, Mark? I lost track of everything.
Which button do I press now? No. I think I'm just going to feel it out. I think I'm just going to close my eyes.
I mean, there are smarter players than I
feel this out.
who are going to find Inkwelder's extensive coverage very useful. People in chat are already saying, Inkwelder, you're doing an amazing job. Like, this is very detailed. The infographic is amazing. If you need a supplement, Inkwelder just gave you the full, like, graduate thesis on Noctis. If you ever need the full reference, it is right here. But I am not one of those players who's able to take advantage of that. So me and Mark, we're just going to feel our way through this for now. I'm sure we'll reference this in a week or two. But I mean, this is great for posterity to record.
So long story short, Noctis good.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I heard.
Good. So Banner not amazing. Rem without her EX and poor Irving. But yeah, the king is back, and if you enjoy, am I still pulling after all of that? Yeah, I haven't. Yes, I am prepared for Noctis. And how could you not want to pull after all of that? Because it's a whole game. It's like a mini game. Playing Noctis is like a mini game within the game. That's classic Final Fantasy.
It's like pulling up my calculator app on my phone.
So what I really want to do is not talk about Noctis. I want to talk about our host discussion, which is early chaos. So last week on the show, I was saying that, I'm following people on social media. I'm listening to people talk on various avenues about the game, and I see hype after hype after hype. People were hyping Porum. People were hyping Paine. People are hyping Noctis. Once people see how much damage Sync does, they're going to hype Sync. And a lot of people probably she's not even on their radar, but she does some impressive things. And then you're going to see other people, along the way. And so, and then talking about like Porum for early chaos. And so I was talking with some of the guys here and other people who really makes it to early chaos and what is early chaos and what's it look like. So I started to go through and watch some videos, and I was talking to Ink, and he kind of ran with the idea, and Inkwelder compiled a lot of data, like an unreasonably large amount of data, and so we are so grateful for him. So Inkwelder went through all of the early chaos fights and he talked to Japanese players. I'll let him talk in a second. So he's going to tell you a little bit about what he did. But he then came along with Boykazith, who's on our Discord and a good friend of the show. And Boykazith came along and compiled a lot of this data. So we're going to share all of that hard work with you now. So be hyped if you're like, I don't really understand early chaos. Who's going to make it? Who's not going to make it? What should I be thinking about? There's some exciting stuff going on. So, yeah, tell us a little bit, Ink, about what you did, and we can move from there with our discussion.
Sure. So first off, early chaos, if we wanted to pinpoint when it starts, when it ends, most JP players said that by Machina's event, which is when Machina and Rem gets her EX+, the game had enough characters that chaos became a lot more manageable. If you had your teams and roles diversified enough, it was much more manageable because Rem is a hugely strong support. You've got a lot of really powerful EX pluses available to you by then. However, the first events before Machina, so there's 2 Awakening Waves, Cloud and Vincent, Kuja and Lillicet, the 4 of them across the 2 Awakening Waves to 70 get their EX+. There are 3 Beta Chaos stages. Beta Chaos was so bad for JP, apparently, that they extended the event to an entire month to allow JP players to actually clear most of the events. There's 3 lost chapters. And all of us GL players that have been playing for a bit know this era of Fang, Deuce, and Agrias. They are 3 of the worst LCs that we faced in 60s era, and now they're going to be some of the worst events that we face in 70s era and EX+ era because of their hard boss mechanics. We've also got Ultimate Leviathan, Kryl and Zell get their EX+ there. Garland and Ultimecia events, that they get EX+. They also, Warrior of Light, Squall get their EX plus. And then just to cap out the rest of the EX pluses, Fang has Tidus on it. Whether it's Tidus or Zell, they're all in the same era. Tidus, Ace, who's great, and Faris all get EX plus. So this is setting the stage for all of these fights have very different, very challenging boss mechanics involved. And so having a limited roster of viable characters makes this particularly hard. So what we did was having this cap between the wave 4 Awakening to 70 when Cloud and Vincent get EX plus to Machina's event. I used, if you all remember, there was a post a while back for preparing for Cosmos that DDX posted on Reddit. I used all the JP players that were referenced in that, and I went and looked at their completes from early Chaos. I also reached out to the GL Spoilers channel. Shout out to Viridux on in Discord. They went and found even more JP content creators that had posted videos during early Chaos. So at the end of this, we had 38 content creators from JP, and we had compiled 368 event clears from these 11 events, which, you know, more players do submit on Macnol's Call to Arms. So, you know, this is a smaller subset than that, but 368 videos is certainly enough to get a really, really strong idea.
I would say
general.
I would say much larger than we probably realized was available of those videos, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah,
absolutely. So. And of the 368, there's probably over 400 that were looked through that they were trying different teams. I saw the same teams going into the same event, and someone would fail and someone would complete it and knock it away. And it just shows how difficult the gameplay might be for people. Yeah. But that said, 368 videos that have all been documented in raw data. All of these will be made available in our forecast planner for people to research themselves and watch the videos. But Boykazith went nuts and created 14 charts, tables, graphs of these of all this data, breaking it out by event, by characters that were used, how often were they used, whether they had EX plus or not. All sorts of really interesting data. And then the last thing I'll say before we get into, I know you put it on OBS so that we can show off some of the graphs. Last thing I'll say is the other part of this, we have a whole presentation that we'll post for everybody. But we also have event notes. So both Viridux and Hope, Dr. Hope on Discord, they were so awesome at breaking down exactly sort of what was going through JP's mindset, like what these boss fights were actually like, whether they were resistant to certain debuffs, whether certain characters were less favored because of a specific boss mechanic. And so we actually have also a little bit of data that reflects the strategy and the event notes that you can consider when going into these events. So yeah, that's the stage.
Well, first of all, thank you. You guys, thank you, Boykazith, thank you, Ink, thank you for everybody who was helping, Viridux too. Great work. Yeah, super. You know, there are 14 charts that Boykazith put together. Ink's going to have all the videos on their forecast planner. I've shared one on Twitch right now. This I'm going to share two. This is unique characters used in each of the Cosmos events. So you see from Awakening Wave 4, Fang, Garland, Leviathan, Deuce, Ultimecia, Wave 5, Agrias, Beta, Beta, Beta. And it shows you all of the unique characters used, and then the width of that. So, you know, you see like for Deuce, you see Ace right at the top. Ace's box is very large, so he was used very much. So the more width the character has, the more they were used. And so the slivers may had one or two uses. So you can see on, if you're watching live on Twitch, if you're following along, we're going to have all these. They're going to be on our Discord. We'll probably have them on our Discord a little early, so you'll be able to see them, but we're going to try to do something. I think Inkwelder and Boykazith are working on a PowerPoint presentation, so they have all the slides there, so that and some analysis as well. So really, it's just going to be great work for the community moving forward. But you can see a lot of the characters that are used. You can see the characters that are used most, and you can see some of the characters that are used individually. So, Crease, Mino, haven't heard from you guys. Looking
I
at
have nothing to say because I've had very little time to look at any.
Right,
of
this is Ink's specialty here. Apparently, he said he's never done any as much research on anything in his life as this. So I'm, prepared to give him the spotlight here.
So just
Sure.
looking at this chart, and we can all see this chart. So even if we're haven't studied it, you can just kind of see it where it is. What are some of the things you notice looking ahead into chaos? And we'll get to the other one.
Crease, go ahead. You first.
Sorry, what was that? I blanked out for a second.
No, I mean, just looking at the chart can you see this? Do you know which one I'm talking about, Crease?
Is it the breakdown of characters used per chaos event?
Yeah, unique characters used sized by usage is the one that I'm looking at. It's on the stream too.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that sticks out to me is that Warrior of Light, even before he gets his EX plus at Garland, is still relatively prevalent. That's the big sticker. Ramza's the next highest, and Charlotta are there too. They tend to stick around a decent amount. Not quite as much as Warrior of Light, but they are still there. And then it's the EX pluses that hang around.
Yep. So I mean, I got to see what the next one is before I want to do that. But we've talked a lot about which of these Cosmos characters is going to make it to the next thing, and you'll see a lot of them. So you can see a Porum in here, right? You can see a Paine in here. You can see, random different characters, a Lena in here even. So we're going to be creative and find ways to get these characters through. But if you want to talk about the surefire Cosmos era characters that bridge over to Chaos, you're looking at Charlotta and Ramza. I guess Cryo would have been before too, and you see a little bit of her, but
Cryo's a pretty early EX plus.
Oh, she's EX plus, right? So, but yeah, I mean Warrior of Light obviously, but he comes with his EX plus. Cloud comes with his EX plus. You see a lot of Cloud, Ultimecia when she hits, but Sarah, as well.
Ramza's incredibly prevalent. Also on there, there are people there's a big Aphmau JP player that loves using Aphmau in every event, and they managed to use Aphmau. She only comes with her 35. She is incredibly low cost. She has debuff evasion like Lena, which is really important, and she cleared a ton of different events. So she's sort of not a 35 CP legend, more like a 35 CP goddess to do chaos with a 35. But Ramza can also do chaos with a 35. They're really strong. Sarah, Lena, Porum, Selfie, Aerith, Paine are all people that are available to us that are situationally useful, that might be good investments. You really want to try and diversify your roles. So a lot of those people are supports, and that's because supports do last the longest. They will prep you the most for difficult content, especially like when we get heretics and stuff. You need those supports to use one or two of them at least in a lot of levels. So you got to be aware of that.
Yeah, this is thank you, Trumpeter, for thanking Ink and Boykazith for their good work. Boykazith did the charts, Ink did the data input. So this is one of 14. The next chart, just looking at this, is a great. I mean, this is amazing stuff. The next chart, let me just hit here. And again, I'm sorry, we're going to try to make it so it's listenable. But meta characters partners in teams that don't include any other top 4 meta. So for a character to be, go ahead, Ink.
Yeah, just basically meaning a lot of people believe that the 4 powerhouse characters for Chaos, it's sort of undisputed that they're all very, very strong. Wall, Warrior of Light, Ultimecia, Cloud, and Charlotta. You don't need all of them by any means. You don't have to get all of them. And we don't want you to look at the data and say, great, I'm just going to, like, this isn't meant to be a pull plan to say, I'm going to grab all these people. You actually, if you have even one of these people, you can clear every Chaos event. There's a run documented in the raw data for you to look at. You do need an appropriate team. So you can't just jam them and have them carry. They won't be able to carry without an appropriate team. But we wanted to make sure that there were some recommendations for if you said, okay, I really want, I'm a Cloud fan, I'm gonna get Cloud. Who do I use with Cloud? Who are good partners for him that aren't the other meta characters, so that you don't see the same team comps over and over. So that's what we tried to do here, and Boykazith sort of over-delivered in terms of how useful I think this is.
Yeah, so you see, for example, for Cloud, his most common teammates who aren't the meta characters, Ramza, Noel, Aerith. Again, I think one of the things we're talking about with this is Chaos is going to necessitate better team building. And better team building, yes, Noel, that's how I say it. I know that's not.
It's Noel.
I know that it
Is
is.
it?
Yeah, it is Noel. I just.
Wow, I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
It's not Noel, but it is Noel. That's how I'm never gonna not say it like that. But it necessitates good team building and good understanding of the mechanic. If you look at the Deuce event, for example, you have tons of Brave batteries, supports clearing that event, not raw damage dealing. You remember how painful the Deuce event was initially. But yeah, we will have all of this. I don't necessarily want to read all of this online, but yeah, obviously Warrior of Light, Ultimecia, Cloud, and Charlotta all come in as very useful throughout this early Cosmos era. That being said, there are a lot of other characters that do shine, and those 4 characters by themselves will not necessarily get you through all of early Cosmos. Because
you mean Chaos?
All of early Chaos, excuse me, because you will need some unique team building ability within that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think one major thing to note is the Deuce event, and also I don't know that we'll get the beta levels, but if we get beta 7, when you look at, there's a chart that shows which were the top characters or which characters were used, sort of like key characters. And all the key characters for beta 7, even though it was out for a month, they're all late characters. Ace, Ultimecia, they all used Sarah as a support because she's an amazing magic damage dealing support and debuffer. And there's such a huge lack of magic damage dealing that Ace, Ultimecia, you definitely want to look through our data to see who's in pulling, who's your favorite, and what teams worked with them, because the Deuce event specifically is highly restrictive. Although I will say I loved watching the Agrias Chaos with Lion. Someone ran Lion, who has a really nice, really strong EX and rework in the 60s era. In the Cosmos era. And she totally worked in Agrias because they built an appropriate team around her. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, there are hidden gems within the Japanese streamer communities that Ink was able to unwind. And so I really do think that it's going to be even more so for us in global. We're going to see more diversity, anything else. But really, I think it does go back to my earlier point from the last couple of weeks that the belief that pulling on any of these Cosmos characters to get you through chaos is really not going to be the case. Yeah, they may help you in certain specific instances with other team members around them. But, if you're spending all of your resources before chaos, you're either going to need to spend some real money, or you're going to have to skip a few events, or you're going to need to have all those EXs already for those reworks. So, Sky, we're at the end of our talk about early chaos and some of that. So I am going to change that back to our main show. So
another cool thing that was getting discussed in our between all of us is that what's cool is that we have all this data now. And so as we go through early chaos, I think that Macnol, with his call to arms threads, and Boykazith are going to try and do a versus JP comparison as we actually go through it, to make sure that we to see if we have more diversity and what other interesting team comps we can come up with.
No, I think this is really exciting. I think it's great work. I think obviously for the Japanese community, early chaos was a nightmare, and it was really difficult. Yes, we're going to be posting all of this data and all of the collection on some various different things. So, you can watch this back on YouTube or Twitch here and listen to it on the podcast, but you're also going to be able to see all these different charts that Boys and Inc. worked on in some various different forms. So we will be able to start sharing what those ways are. And you can look through the data yourself and watch 380 videos of early chaos. It actually, I would suggest everybody who's listening, once they release that on the forecast planner, you can go through, and I would suggest watching a couple early chaos fights, because it's really quite different than the game right now. It's a different style of play, and it's a different style of difficulty. We're talking about long fights that are very difficult. So, so you have something to look forward to. It's also the one thing that we did not collate, and I don't even think it would be almost impossible. It would just take so much time. Remember, as we get into EX Plus era, so early chaos is kind of alongside the EX Plus weapons, not all of these characters necessarily need their EX Plus weapons fully upgraded. Now, some of them do. I think arguably Cloud wants his EX Plus fully upgraded, because that's when he gets his double attack, and that's pretty cool. But some of them really don't. So you're going to want to conserve resources. There's another one of our sheets that basically said, or basically was the compilation of how many EX Plus weapons were used per event. And so you'll see, obviously, the average for the first couple was less than 1 or 1. But as Chaos era continued, you would have 2+ EX weapons per event. So you are going to want to invest in those EX Plus characters early on to help you out as well. So,
yeah, and there's notes in the raw data. We've highlighted any EX Plus that we noticed, because some players don't show their setup, and you sort of have to see whether they EX Plus their weapon or not. However, we do notate if the EX Plus was not MLB. So it's a great way for you to watch a run and say, like, oh, how did Cloud, like with his base EX Plus, or how did Warrior of Light with his base EX Plus get through Garland's event? There's some really cool strats also that we found that's documented in the presentation around cheesing various fights or countering the boss mechanic in a certain way. It's really cool. So I think there's a lot for you all to look forward to.
Ouroboros is saying when EX Plus comes around, I believe banners start having 2 EX weapons on them. That is correct. The first one will be Cloud and Vincent EX Plus, Garland and Warrior of Light EX Plus, Deuce and Ace EX Plus, Fang and Tidus in Japan. That will be interesting to see if they mess with that, because in Global we had Zell on that banner, so who knows what we'll get. probably Titus. I don't think they'll probably mess with that. Ultimecia and Squall EX Plus on their banners, and the EXs are on those. And so, yeah, those are the early ones that you'll see. I forget what's wave 5. I don't know.
Lilithset and Kuja. Oh,
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention that's really interesting. So everyone remembers from the last chapter, the Freya chapter, we had to fight Soul Cage. That's that big tree that lights itself on fire. That is the raid boss for Lilithset and Kuja's Awakening Wave. And there's a Chaos version of it. Now, the last time I was on, I sort of noted, because we were talking about Shiva, how it would be the evasion change came to GL early. Well, it did. And now, when we get to that Chaos event, it's going to actually be harder for us. Because the first wave are those white priests. It's the 3 priests, and the one in the middle casts perfect dodge, goes invisible, and dodges all your attacks. And both the EX pluses, Kuja and Lilithset, have split AoE attacks. And so in the first wave of that Chaos fight, you're dealing 1/3 less damage, because it goes both ways, right? So the guy in the middle dodges the attack, and so it still gets split up into thirds, and so you're now dealing less overall damage to the other 2 priests that are there. So it is really interesting to see the double-edged sword that, hey, it's great. People used Cater in the Cosmos, in the Atlas raid, or, various other, now Shiva and Rama will be really nice in helping us dodge and won't mess our team up, but it also works against us. So that Chaos specifically is going to be a little challenge for the newly minted EX Plus members.
Drusane is asking, does the prospective release of Beatrix LC affect any thoughts about difficulty of early Chaos? I think that's a great question. Thank you for asking it.
So the one, and I even heard JP players talking about it that spoke English, that said, oh, I'm saving, I'm not fully EX Plusing Warrior of Light because I know that Deuce's event is coming up and I'm going to need magic attackers, so I'm going to use Ace. There's a very huge shortage of magic attackers. Beatrix, hate to break it to all of you, she's not getting her EX Plus in early Chaos. There's no way. Her HP +++ is completely broken. It would basically make Warrior of Light completely inefficient. It would make most of the next 5 to 6 months of Chaos trivial. That's how powerful she is. If we get her, just her rework and her 70, I believe that she'll have some power to handle these, at least the Deuce event for sure. There are a lot of magic resist stages, so she won't work there. But I think that is a great question. I'm hoping that we get her rework and her 70, and we can try her out. And that's actually my plan. I don't want to pull Ace or Machina myself, and I would love to just use Beatrix and let her carry me through early Chaos until I get some units that I enjoy using.
All right. Well, thank you, Ink. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for doing all your work. This is exciting stuff. Again, we will get this information out, so look for it on Reddit. Look for it, on Discord. If you're looking for it, we do have it. I have access to it right now, so we may try to share it on Discord, so you have access to it as well. Even make a separate channel for it. So it's just a lot of good stuff. Look for it on the forecast. Look for it over yourself. But I do, again, Boykazith and Inkwelder did a great job compiling all of this for us. And I think this is going to help us greatly as we go to early Chaos. All right. Well, we're about coming down to the end of our time together. So let us look ahead. Tonight, of course, Noctis Lost Chapter hit. We are going to have Sync, new event, new character, EX level 70, coming to us on the 15th. Our second wave of Awakenings, which would be Ramza EX, Terra EX, Ferris, Yuna EX and the 3 EXs have reworks along with them. Zack and 7 all up to level 70. 2 banners, 3 EX weapons, 3 reworks. So that's going to be on the 18th. Selfie on the 22nd with her EX and 70, no rework. And Square Enix Community mobile stream on the 23rd, when we'll probably learn more about other things going on. Of course, Prompto and not of course Prompto, but it's already on the calendar. The character event at the end of the month. So Mino,
and the shop.
Kreese.
They'll talk about the shop. So if you
Yes.
want to wait, Noctis overlaps, like Kreese said in the last show. Noctis overlaps, his banner overlaps 3 days with the stream. So you can wait for the stream, see what's going on with the shop, and then you could pull Noctis if you feel like you can't wait or you need to, or we're not getting the shop, who knows. But you might have more context if you are hesitant on or considering whether you should pull for Noctis or not.
Yes,
I'm in agreement with Ink. I think it's if you are not, or if you're torn on Noctis, you think you want him, but you're not sure, you might want to wait a bit.
that's good. Yeah, wait a little bit. He's going to be around for a couple weeks. You don't have to pull them the first night. Ha ha ha.
Rip all the people that pulled him while they were listening
they're
to
listening
this.
to us, yes. Maybe I should, too late. Mino, Kreese, TCC challenge this week?
The one that I discussed with Magnol before that I thought became official, but it wasn't, was I felt this event was restrictive enough that just cutting a couple of the top characters that provide safety out would be enough. And
Okay.
those characters I felt were Warrior of Light, Lena, and Paine. I don't know if the rest of you are in agreement with that, but that's what I was thinking. Just restrict those from the story chapter cosmos.
I think that is a great idea. So the TCC challenge for a feast for Darkened Wings Cosmos, no Paine, no Lena, no Warrior of Light. Is that it? Because they kind of cheese the fight. So,
I mean, first of all, no Warrior of Light goes without saying. The rest of the game's existence. But I mean, what does this event do again? It counters magic and it does the break. It's a hard call. I honestly just can't give a
all magic, no healers. Go. No.
I don't want to restrict all healers,
No.
the strongest one right now that most people have. I mean, technically we could cut Porum too, remove the 2 best healers that are available right now, but I'm kind of trying to leave things open.
I think that's good.
Ultras.
So we will hold the TCC challenge for just no Paine, no Lena, no Warrior of Light. So come up with as creative teams as you can, and we'll be excited to see those on Magnol's Call to Arms. Submit them on Magnol's Call to Arms, and we'll share them next week. So, no, go ahead, Mino. I'm sorry to cut you off.
I didn't have too much to go on, but if you're giving me the final word, the takeaway message, I'm going to reluctantly credit Eamon, who's in chat right now, who's been saying this since halfway through the podcast, is that content creators and the GL community as a whole should be starting to influence people to start pulling for diverse rosters instead of a handful of meta characters. Because, as we've discussed, not only in the Cosmos era is that viable, but going forward with Abyss plus far ends of the dimension that we're going to be getting with Chaos era and then all the permanent heretics, honestly, that's going to be the name of the game. And to circle it back to what Ink and I were talking about earlier, it's just nice to have multiple tank options, multiple DPS options, even just like physical, magical. Like, it's just good to have options. So I think starting from here on out, because I know like current JP Chaos, they're a couple months deep, right? Like 7-8 months deep into Chaos. And the name of the game is variety as well. So honestly, it's I don't think you're going to be hurt too bad pulling favorites. There's very, very few characters that are quote unquote not viable, and even if they aren't, they're still able to be carried or at least fit a niche. But Ink, what
I
were you?
think the early chaos phase is the roughest point where
Yes.
some early EX pluses do not age as well as others, looking primarily at Fang and Zell, which are currently commented as being some of the worst EX pluses in the game.
Yeah, and one of the dark horses to watch out for is actually Leon. So if we get the element change also, I mean, I asked about this on the evasion change and then it happened. So if we get the element change also, where if someone's weak to an element, it overrides melee, ranged, or magic resistance, Leon is actually going to potentially be able to do a lot of damage. He was actually a viable strategy. I only found one video of it. But the JP community, at least in the GL Spoilers channel, multiple people mentioned that Leon was a really interesting unit that helped them in early chaos because of his unique mechanic. And we'll get there eventually, but I would say he's a potential dark horse. I know Arolai is very excited to pull him to complete the FF2 squad. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all. Remember, if you would like to catch up with us, if you're just joining us on Twitch and you missed some of the show, you can go to tccpodcast.com, find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Discord, join our Discord. All that information's at tccpodcast.com. We will upload the podcast. Thank you to Pierre, who does our production work, Jin Lee, who does a lot of our background stuff. Thank you to Mino Spellgood and Kreese, a.k.a. Zerank, for their good work. Thank you, Arolai and Macnol, moderating our Twitch chat tonight. Thank you for all of our subscribers and all of those who help in our Discord. Thank you, Ink, for joining us tonight as well. And so this is going to be episode 68 of the Crystal Chronicles. We'll see you next week, Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time or at Friday morning, 1 a.m. UTC. Until then, we wish you all the best, good luck, and goodbye.